Welcome back to another episode of Reinventing Finance. I'm very happy to have Alex with me or with us today in our virtual abode. Um, Alex, it's a pleasure to have you here. You are the country manager Germany at Assurant. Could you just briefly introduce yourself and Assurant so we can kind of get the ball rolling?
Sure. Thank you, Nikolaus, and thank you, Ronald, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Alexander Hess. I'm country manager for Assurant in Germany, as you've mentioned. I'm with the company since 2021. For Assurant in Germany, it was a kind of re-entry into the market. We had been around for quite a while, then exited the market, but won a very big project in the year 2020. Then at my previous stage at AXA Partners, then obviously was a fantastic opportunity provided to myself that I couldn't resist. So since then, leading the operation in Germany, it's a rescaling, a re-entry. So a lot of work, going to conferences, bringing the name of Assurant back into the German market. Why is it so important for us? Obviously, Germany as a key market in Europe, one of the biggest economies in the world. It's a central growth lever for Assurant for the global growth. We are by heart a B2B2C company. We are S&P 500 listed, I think at place 350, something like that. We have circa 12 billion of revenue yearly, and circa 33 billion in assets under management. Assurant is a very specialized provider. We have three verticals that we are serving. The first one is our housing business in the US. This is pretty much tailored, to banking and mortgages, but very specific to the US market. Our second vertical is then global automotive. This is mainly extended warranty services and service offerings. I would say our biggest innovation here is everything around EVs, so electronic vehicles, where we also cover like battery degradation. We've been investing in this product in 2019, and I think this makes us kind of unique in the whole automotive space. And our key targets there are OEMs and also the big dealership groups that we know, both from the US and also the UK. And then we have our biggest vertical, which is called Global Connected Living. And this is, I would say, everything around consumer electronics products. This is both insurance and service products. We have a lot of offerings we do for financial services or banking clients, credit cards, etc. And for that, we also do all the administrational services ourselves.
Before,
Alex. Oh,
ju- yeah, just one question. What was why did you leave Germany? And was that like a European exit or a German exit? Because yeah, Assurant is a very big player, but also from
Yeah.
a kind of US focus, or US originated, right?
Correct, yeah. Originated in the US, and then yes, we had a time in, I think it was 2014, where we rearranged the strategy globally. So more US focus. Then in 2016, Assurant purchased the Warranty Group, was a multi-billion deal that was done, which then also led us back, I would say, heavily into the European market, mainly driven by automotive. But then also the company decided to bring back the other services and solutions as well. And this was really I would say, the tipping point, the TWG acquisition that we did back in, I think it was 2018, something like that. And since then, we are heavily pushing again in Europe. And as I stated, with a big win we had in with a big telco in Germany, this was really the moment in time that I would say, at least for Central Europe, that changed the trajectory. And since then, we've won a lot of business in Europe. And yeah, so now it's a clear growth path for us for our international business, for everything outside the US. So Europe is one of the big contributors now.
Thank you.
I would like to jump in here because I vividly remember when you entered the Asia Pacific market, because I was still based there in 2017, 2018, when you bought the warranty group, and they were all over extended warranty. So for me, it would be super interesting. You said it's a tipping point. How, or from among the three pillars you mentioned,
Mhm.
which one is the most important now? How would you summarize your strategy going forward for, of course, Germany, but also in areas like APEC, where before you came in, it was extended warranty with a warranty group?
100%, yeah. I think you have to look really region by region. So that's first of all, and every region obviously has its own challenges. When you look at Europe alone, the war in the Ukraine, political uncertainty globally. Also, I think, the chancellor vote in Germany, only getting it in the second round is also something, the far right. So there's lots of movement, lots of competition, obviously, in Europe, Asia, highly digital, even more digital, I think, than we are in Europe. So again, I think it depends on the vertical you look at. I think in automotive, it's pretty clear that we are very strong, as I said, in dealership groups. So this is one specific area that we're targeting, and the second one is OEMs. And as I said, we are pretty specialized in what we're doing, and therefore our focus is really heavy on the extended warranty piece, but also on the EV sector. I think there's a lot of potential for us to come in with our solutions, with our IT systems. We can really be the player in the middle to connect the dots for the IT landscape within the big OEMs as well. And automotive is also something we are super strong in the UK. With big dealerships at the moment, and our focus now is to use the knowledge we have from the US, from Latin America, from the UK, and to transfer that really into mainland Europe. So I'd say that's the first key approach, both for Germany and Europe. The electronic vehicle offerings we have, obviously globally. As you said, Ronald, also in Asia, obviously we all know a lot of EV OEMs come from China, so that's a massive opportunity. Obviously, you have to look at sanctions, at due diligence and all of that. That's not the easiest part of making such deals, right? But that's one core strategy. And the other big strategy we have in our biggest vertical in connected living, as we not only act as an insurance company, as I mentioned, we also act as a service company. And we do, for example, trade-in. So your old phone needs to be traded in, you get some money for it. So where does that phone go? So we are a provider who can support you with that. We have our own repair facilities. And that's a global business, right? We just launched a new establishment in Hong Kong. We have facilities in the UK, in the US, in Latin America, in Australia. So we have a global footprint, which also allows us to circumnavigate some of the tariff situations, which I think is essential in that line of business. So that's a key focus for us, really, to look holistically in that consumer electronics space and offer a fully circular solution, right? The second one is, and I think we will come to that later as well, is how can you bridge the gap between a sustainability department, which normally is just a cost center, and the product teams or the business teams? How can you provide solutions that bring both together, that actually create a sustainable business model? And that's really at the core of what we're doing globally in the space of consumer electronics. Yeah, and then as I said, we also offer the administration. We have our call centers internally. We want to deliver the best quality and the highest standards, and that's why we've chosen the approach to be a very niche player in only three verticals, but do that with all we can, right? So everything in that chain is really us. We try to only use external parties as limited as we can and where it makes sense. But I would say that's the big strategy that we see and the big focus also that we are investing in.
Without explicitly mentioning it, that has embedded insurance written all over it, basically. So I would be very, and this is, of course, also an area Assurant has a strong presence in, right? And it's known for. So what what part does embedded insurance play across these three pillars, three verticals in your strategy, and what trends do you see going forward?
Yeah. Again, I think that highly depends on the vertical we are talking about.
Mhm.
On the housing business in the US, there's certain areas where a customer doesn't take the insurance himself, so the bank offers the insurance. So obviously, if you are the chosen partner, that allows you to do good business, whereas you still need to be available on a direct to consumer basis on that area. So a customer can choose your product from the market. On the EV side, I would say it's a bit the same, right? With the battery topics on EVs, obviously your ideal scenario is your product is really fully embedded rather than just good integrated into a sales journey. Because again, just looking at the wording and the meaning, those are also, I think, two distinctions we need to be very careful with how we use embedded insurance, right? I think to me, embedded is really it's part of a product
An
itself. So
obligatory
it's
product. Everyone is
correct.
insured,
It's
right?
bright. It's priced in already, like we know from credit cards or some bank accounts. Um, Whereas then you also need to be highly integrated. I think that's also a very unique part that we're seeing now. And that more and more companies understand as well that either you need embedded or you need integrated products to have a massive success. Nikolaus?
Just to and I would say at least my for me embedded is wider, right? It's
Yeah.
partnerships,
Yeah.
it's affinity, it's irrespect. It's basically offering insurance products through non-traditional insurance channels,
Yeah.
which for me is also bank assurance.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to kind of get the terminology straight. Because there's no what, there's no
Correct.
right or wrong way about this. I was just curious if I understood you correctly when you said if something is embedded, or what I would just say, an obligatory group contract, everything's
Yeah.
insured, it's baked into the product, that you need to have a certain deep level of integration. Now, from a technology point of view, I don't, did I understand? Because I don't think that's true. Because that's basically, you can run a credit card scheme on a CSV if you wanted to, because there's no dynamic pricing, there's very limited data exchange. Did I just misunderstand you there? Was the alternative, albeit less attractive for the insurance buyer, the optionality, that actually creates more technical, regulatory
Yeah.
nuance and thus interaction between different systems. Just wanted to understand whether we had a different point of view, which I would then love to discuss, or whether
Of
I just
course.
misunderstood you.
No, I think we have the same view, but it
Yes.
highly depends on the product and
Sure.
your distribution channel. So I would totally agree on a credit card, and it's fully embedded. So as we say, non-additional charge to a customer. Obviously, you can run that without deep integrations, etc. What I'm more referring to is really like the affinity part of it. Or
Hmm.
even we look at Amazon, right? And then you have an insurance product connected to it. So obviously, the more info you have, the better you can price. The better is the offering for the end consumer. The easier is the claims process later if something happens to a device. And I think also when we then look at rather than fully embedded or non-additional charge or whatsoever, to how can you also sell affinity products in the best way?
Hmm.
And for that, I would say you need a good integration. You need it fully integrated into the sales systems and the buy flow of the leading brand that you have. If we look at online retailers, if we look at telco companies, the best way you can achieve your success is by being fully in their flow. And it's all started by these brands, and then you act. I would say in the background, you receive data, APIs, have a good CRM system in the back end, and then you can be the claims fulfillment partner at the end. So that was more what I was referring to, Nikolaus. And again, I think it highly depends on the product and the sales channel.
Makes total sense. I would be super interested. How would that work in global connected living? Because when I look at smart homes, I think this is one of the areas where it's super hard for insurers to actually get into the ecosystem. So, what is your view on this?
I think,
Apart from sensors. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And then also it depends again of where you want to see the business, right? I mean, as you said, do you want to use sensors for risk or pricing or risk prevention? All right, that's one thing. If we look more at consumer facing and all the home stuff, connected home, you have still, I would say, too many different systems talking to each other, right? You have your, I don't know, your doorbell is from brand A, your lighting system is from brand B, your router is from brand C. So there's nothing really that really well connects it. So I think a lot of consumers are a bit overweight of what they're doing. So you could offer technical support, right? This is something that we heavily do in the US to help consumers to understand the framework that they're in, if they have issues in setting up things. So that's one point for me. The second one is obviously it offers you, as it's also an electronic device, it offers you new opportunities for insurance solutions, right? You can let's say you do a multi-device insurance and offer that via an online retailer. Um, you have now way more risk you can cover. So your product and the services you can offer with that product become more and more important. And the faster you can ensure that a customer is reconnected. It's the same with a smartphone. It's the same with your laptop. It's the same with a smartwatch. Um, the faster you are in helping that customer, the better the experience is, right? So again, I think it offers a lot of opportunity, and then you take it further, and then you look at automotive. It's also getting more and more connected digitally, right? I mean, nowadays everyone connects his smartphone to his car. That's nothing new anymore, right? So again, and you see that the world is further changing. It all gets more interconnected. It offers a lot of opportunity, I think. Again, to be creative in your product design and how you want to support the customers. Um, and at the same time, I think yes, it's a huge challenge, right? To still be able to manage the risk that comes with all of that. Yeah, but I think that's how I see it.
I think you made a super important point about these super many different standards in
Mm.
smart home. But one buzzword which is always flying around is this new unified standard matter 2025. They should come, maybe it's going to be 2026, where they try to unify these standards, right? You have these smart lamps on the Chinese backbones. You have Philips Hue and Alexa and Apple. Does that play any role in your strategic views, or do you think, hey, we see what comes and then go with it?
I mean, I can't speak obviously for all of the company, right? So maybe I can share a personal view. I think it's hard with all the change that's happening to have everything on the radar, and trying to have a solution for everything. right? So I think again, it's important that you understand what your offering is as a company and how you can best support the change that's happening. So when I look at our space, where we insure a lot of consumer electronic goods, as I said, we do trade-ins, we repair things ourselves. Obviously, the more standardized topics are, the easier it is to repair. The more you can extend the lifetime of a device, the more carbon emissions you can avoid because no new device needs to be produced. So I think with that regard, it would help. Also with using spare parts for repairs and all of that. So that could have a massive impact, I would say, on cost of claim as well. Also on cost of repair. And to keep devices longer in the life cycle, right? I think there's a huge transition trying to achieve a circular economy. We are far away from that still. I think the smartphone business is one that really, yeah, it has achieved something which not many businesses have achieved, is starting to create a really circular business model. It's sustainable, it makes money, it's a good thing to do. A lot of consumers are interested in it. So again, huge opportunity. But obviously we are no OEM, we are no manufacturer, right? So we can't influence maybe as much as we want. But I would say from our perspective, the more standardization you have, the easier it gets for us to keep these devices repaired. And as I said, I mean, it's better to repair a device than to swap it, right? And that applies for everything, I would say, right? So yeah, that's my take on it.
So you mentioned that a lot of it depends, line of business, distribution partner, etc. So would it be okay if we kind of dig in? But you also mentioned that one of the reasons you went into Germany was you got this new telco partnership. So maybe
Yeah.
we can use that as an example,
Yeah.
because I would like to um, understand what your what's your pitch? Why did they pick you rather than someone else?
Yeah.
So can you just walk us through, we're telco. Doesn't have to,
Yeah.
I don't know whether that name is public, that partnership. You have it doesn't really matter, but it's to say, what was the scope of the offering, and why
Yeah.
do you think you competed against? I would imagine your former colleagues were on that tender as well. But there's ample
Yeah.
um, of providers from the outside, and they some are very different,
Yeah.
but some also look alike. And so we just really understand if you could walk us through that, because that would make
Sure.
it quite real in my mind.
Of course. I think one of the biggest factors is that Assurant is a global company, and obviously our main market is still the US. And you saw, especially in the telco sector, a lot of movement in that space with regards to how they approach winning new customers, how they approach selling additional services to their consumers, and how the market shaped and how much or how big the business case was, and also how good the offering was from a sustainability perspective. If I look into the German market, and I've been in the smartphone insurance business since 2016, um, it was pretty standardized when you look at the product offering. So it was a swap model, and it was purely focused on insurance as a
What do you mean
standalone
by swap
product.
model? Is that
So rather than
for the
you
claims?
repair
Okay.
that device and the customer has to wait 7 days for it, you file a claim, and if you file it before 4 p.m., you get an exchange device the next morning delivered
Mhm.
via post, and your old broken device gets handed to the shipment company, to DHL,
Yep.
for example, and you return that device that way. We then in the background repair it and put it back into our stock. But the consumer only has to wait, let's say, 10 hours rather than
Mhm.
waiting a week for his same device to be returned to him because it needs to be repaired.
And that was the
Um,
standard, because that sounds pretty good as a consumer. That was the
for
standard.
that brand, it was the standard, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But also the others did it. So yes, I would say for the big brands in Germany, big telco brands, it was the standard. This because it's the best offering for an end consumer, right? It's the
Sure.
most expensive one, but it's the best one. Um, what happened in 2019 when that was launched is that the first time they looked also into the US and said, what are they doing different? Why are they making so much more money? And it was clear that you need to tackle the full circular model. So you need insurance, you need trade-in, you need to resell used devices as a premium product also to your consumers, and you need to link all of that together to have the best proposition available in the market. Um, and this is literally how they created the RFP, and this is exactly the core of our business, right? We are the biggest trade-in provider in the world. Last year we shipped around 24 million devices or processed them. So yeah, we helped some of the big telcos in the US to create this business model. So obviously, yeah, the RFP that came out was at the core of our strength. And this is what we pitched. We pitched a fully circular model. We also pitched new ideas on how to create products that you not only have a standard insurance, a standard trade-in, but there's also opportunities with a forward trade-in or with an upgrade program of how you can combine all of that into the
Can you
best possible
elaborate on
world.
those? What's a forward trade-in? What's an upgrade program?
Yeah, so the forward trade-in program is literally you buy a device today, and I give you a guarantee for the next 24 months that if you want to return your device in month 13, already today you know how much money you will get if it's in a certain condition. If the device is in a different condition, that's why insurance in there. You file an insurance claim, and then you can give the device back to us. And the outstanding payment you still have with your telco is eliminated. So by bundling these products, you can allow a consumer to, yeah, let's say with his financing to take care of the risk he has, but also to allow him to give back a device. And with that, obviously, you can increase your take back rate for smartphones, which is still a big issue when you look at sustainability goals for the big telcos. As we all know, in the fixed line with a router, everyone gives his router back if you cancel your contract. So they have a lot of returns. On the smartphone, normally they're only selling. So they need to find ways of how do they get devices back to reach this fully circular model. For every device sold, they can also bring a device back into their ecosystem.
And
Um,
out of curiosity, when you say so, I mean, from a telco, they probably love nothing more than having me on an old, a 24-month contract, and then ideally I don't upgrade because right? That's ideally I had a 24-month contract and then I'll forget, right? That's probably from I think they use ARPU, right? ARPU, Is that, as a metric. So if let's say I have the 24-month contract at month 13, I trade in. I buy an option to trade in my phone. And would that then mean that because what's the difference to upgrade? Would I then get a new phone someplace else, or what's because I get the upgrade thing. It's to say you have a 24-month contract, but I'm the
yeah,
iPhone 15 Pro, but I want to get the new one, and I don't want to wait for the length of the contract, so I have an upgrade period that I get, but maybe I don't get the forward trade-in aspect and how that
normal.
links to the phone contract.
Yeah, so normally you have a lower monthly price if you have a forward trade-in included, because you all already factor in that you get a device back, which you can deduct from the end payment, right? So that's commercially it makes sense for the end
Understood.
consumer, right?
Okay. So basically, what you say.
Yeah.
Got it. Like
So
the
it's
router
it's to make
example.
the monthly
Understood.
payment cheaper, and the
Mm-hmm.
upgrade program tackles that you also buy a new device. The forward trade-in
Understood.
just makes it cheaper, and you don't have to buy a new device. Obviously, that's the best case scenario. But what it aims for is to have your monthly price that you're paying to the telco reduced
Got it.
because of the
Yeah.
device coming back. And the upgrade again focus on giving you the flexibility because normally your contract runs 2 years, or your financing. But oh my God, the new iPhone 17 comes out and I want it and I just have my 16 for a year. So what do I do now? Normally I have to pay for another year and only then can I upgrade. So the focus there is to give you the flexibility to really upgrade to the newest model whenever you want.
Or you
And
can actually compare it to leasing almost, right?
Correct. You can't name it leasing. Yes, I think that's the important piece. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, literally, it's the idea is, I would say, the same. Yeah.
is it so? So when you mentioned, so you had this experience in the United States, and so you're like, ah, this is our capability. However, having great capabilities in Texas, how helpful is that in Hamburg? Because what you've mentioned is, this is not a purely virtual business, right? You get your hands dirty, you have replacement, you have
Yeah.
logistics, um, and you also, that also is not helpful. Or do you ship that to Hong Kong or something? So how local is that supply chain, or does it need to be? Because yes, it's Germany, not Texas.
Correct. Correct. So obviously you have to be, I would say you need to have the capital strength in the background to obviously ensure you can build the supply chain that you need,
Understood. Okay.
localized.
Okay.
So that's obviously we made a promise that if you award us the business, we ensure that this is what we do, and we've
Okay.
we've kept we've kept that promise. And then, as I said, I mean, unfortunately, shortly before Brexit, we built our own device care center in the UK. So that's still, I would say, local enough. You get the device in Germany, you could ship it to the UK, get it repaired there, have your quality standards met, and then you could bring it back. Obviously, Brexit made that a bit more difficult. So obviously we are now fully based in Germany with our supply chain. But yeah, obviously that's a core part of it. You need to walk the talk. All right. If you make a promise, you have to deliver on it. And again, I think that's a big part of what we're doing. We're pretty honest. We are pretty stable in the offerings we do. We know there is other players in the market who try to be more aggressive on pricing, but we also know that's not sustainable. And we aim for sustainable business, for long-term partnerships, and that's how we approach our partnerships.
So with being that vertically integrated and with having an investment case on fixed assets, um, would you offer these, let's say, more asset heavy investments to some of your competitors? Like I don't know that AXA is investing that heavily in it, but it might very well be that AXA has a good relationship to a telco because their tender, for example,
Yeah,
strategically might be bundling device
yeah,
protection with, I don't know, home insurance or travel insurance or car
yeah,
insurance. Right? There's different strategic elements of how
yeah,
you want to slice your partnership chain.
yeah.
Now you've said we go vertical. Do you always combine that with your own balance sheet and with your own insurance license, or do you say, or even, there's tons of home insurers who have mobile phones and who are dying.
Yeah,
You know, they're just flooded with these high frequency claims that,
yeah,
that they're not geared towards. Or is that a strategic option for you? Is basically what I'm trying to get at.
100%, 100%. I mean, we are pretty strong in a lot of markets, a lot of European markets. We've really established good brands, good partnerships, good business models. But whenever there's a need or an uplift in partnering, we would always consider that. We also do reinsurance, so we don't always have to be the fronter. We can only be an admin for you if you need support there. So we have obviously the aim always is to do it all ourselves, right? That's the best case for us. But yes, there is scenarios where we partner, and especially when you look in the whole area around not only insurance, but the whole circular economy piece. To reach these levels, you need partnerships. No one can do it alone. And yes, partnerships as well are at the core of what we're doing, not only with clients who sell our products, but also with other insurance companies. We're doing co-insurance, we're doing reinsurance. Again, sometimes we are just the administrator in the background, administrating insurance products of other companies. So yes, we can wear various hats. Again, in the best case, we wear all of them.
Do,
What are the
do,
areas where you, sorry for jumping in, Nick, because I'm really interested about this business, lots of business logistics. You need to walk the talk. You're very vertically integrated. It's the best thing to do it all yourself, but sometimes you simply can't. Which areas are the most likely where you just have to partner because it makes things
Yeah,
easier, it makes things quicker? You
yeah,
mentioned Brexit and so on. What's the
yeah.
situation in Germany?
I think a good example is like assistance services, right? I would say we offer assistance services, but normally and especially in mainland Europe, um, we can't provide them ourselves. So we need a partner for that. The other one is we don't do classic car insurance. As we said, we do extended warranty. So also on that front, right, we will never, let's say, be an AXA doing car insurance in Germany. It's just nothing that we do, but there's still opportunities to have complementary offerings, right? Not everyone wants to do extended warranty on batteries. Or little to no one wants, right? So that's something where then we can jump in and support. Sometimes you have, I don't know, a bank or a telco um, who has its own captive. So they also want to underwrite some of the business or front the business, right? So obviously, if you want to be part of that business, you need to accept this yeah, reality and accommodate your offering to it. So again, I would say it highly depends, but there's certain areas, as I said, like assistance services or car insurance, which are pretty clear where there's partnerships needed, and where they also make massive sense to enrich the offerings we have, or also we enrich the offering of others. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you want to win business, right? You want to have good business, yeah, and you want to have the best, let's say, outcome for the companies and also for the end consumer.
um, you've mentioned, I believe, that you also in your vertical integration have your own call center, right?
Yeah.
Now, I believe a lot of people, when they think embedded insurance, they hope that this is a purely end-to-end digital process, and the customers, they won't need to be pushed, they just need to be pulled, and it's just magically conversion is being driven up,
Oh
and
yeah, of
it's
course.
free. And AI is going to solve the rest of it. Of course, you just ask ChatGPT to, make it work. And what's your, let's say, experience, at which, let's say, level of an insurance, is it like the level of the premium? Does it make sense for you to have outbound call centers in the mix, and that is actually a differentiating factor for, let's say, some of the telco or other partners who might not feel comfortable, or have the capabilities of doing push insurance sales, or as you say, this is so old school, um, you know, um, don't do it. I was just would like to. I have an
Yeah,
opinion, but I'd like to kind of get your
yeah.
experience.
I still think the call center channel has a lot of how you say, it's still relevant, right? Because I think in this highly digital world, in this AI world, and I think we've all had some technical issues sometimes. And if you then, are stuck in an IVR and no one can help you, I think from a service perspective, it's still one of the most
But
important
that's
ones.
inbound,
No,
right?
I
That's
know.
inbound.
So yeah, I agree. It's just the intro to my statement.
Okay.
Um, I also think outbound can still work, but to me, it's more still an inbound channel. I don't think it's a push channel, to be honest. Um, on the inbound side, whenever it is, right? If it's a credit card and you have to activate your card via a call, you can sell additional products. If you call a telco and say, I want to extend my contract, you can make offerings. It makes total sense. On the outbound side, I think the time is nearly over, I would say, at least for Germany, right? That's the market I can discuss best. There may be other markets where it's still working, but I would say for Germany, I don't see that because whenever you get a call from a number you don't know, I think a lot of people don't even take the call, right? So, or if it says unknown, so I think that business is too hard and too costly.
I was just curious because I mean, I get we're at the telco. I'm getting called from Deutsche Telekom probably 4 times a year, and on me upgrading to a higher speed tariff, and the difference is like it's 3 euros per month. And I'm just thinking, okay, if I mean, someone must have had a calculator, so they called me 4 times for an addition, and let's just assume it's 100% profit, which it might actually be because I'm very happy with my 500 megabyte. So someone calls me 4 times to get 36 euros per annum. Is so someone just not doing their math, or is broadband so much sexier than insurance? Well, it's just equally, and just to kind of frame that, I don't know how it actually played out. That seemed to be one of the um, life rafts that people, when PPI got shit
Hmm.
canned
Yeah,
in Germany, that people hoped would create that magical uplift when they had to
yeah.
disconnect them.
I
Sorry,
think
so I
no,
was just not
no,
squaring that together.
no. I think it's a totally fair statement. And I'm using that too often today, but then again, it depends on the product, right? No, because again, I mean, a telco can offer you something very different than trying to do a cold call and sell you insurance.
Oh,
That's
totally. I mean, so
it's a
this was
total
in the
different
embedded
business
channel.
case, right? And I was only thinking about it as a cold call to sell you an insurance product. I think that's outdated, and I don't think it makes commercial sense. That's just my very personal view, and I've learned at AXA, and I made calls on car insurance myself, calling lists and trying to sell car
How
insurance.
fun
So
was that? How fun was
oh, it
that?
was a lot of fun because only 5% of people picked up the call, and literally no one bought it. So
Doesn't that completely change if you play this embedded insurance the right way? Then you try to say, because you can also see embedded insurance as a lead plus, right? You have a customer, it's often still a little bit small, and now you want to develop this customer from one time to recurring to term, other products, higher premiums. Wouldn't that change this view on outbound call centers a little bit? You have something positive to jump in. Hey, it's good. Are you happy with what you got with us so far? Now let's talk about ABC. And if you don't have a minute of your time, okay, then let's talk another time. Cases like Nikolaus 4 times a year.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert on outbound sales, right? Just to be very clear here. So, it's my very own opinion. You can try everything. I don't know if it makes sense, to be honest. And I still think a telco has a very different case, especially if you have
Sure.
fixed line, if you have a mobile phone contract, if you have, I don't know, a TV with them as well, a TV abo or whatever. I think then your use case is totally different. But again, if I look back to my times, and that was also existing customers, maybe they had, I don't know, home insurance, and you tried to sell them car insurance. I mean, it's
Tough.
painful.
I
It's
also did that once. Very painful telephone
Yeah, so
party in the evening.
again, to me, I think the better way of doing it is digitally, to be honest, because if you have a customer center, a customer care center, or an app or whatever where the customer logs in, but then for that you also need to have a brand which is strong enough, right? I mean, to be honest, if I create an Assurant brand, or an Assurant app for Germany, I mean, literally no one would care because we are
Sure.
B2B2C, right?
Yeah.
So that's something where you also need to be mindful of what's the right level to get that engagement to do upselling.
I think what you can, at least for Germany, if you kind of look at the bundling rates of most insurance companies, they're really low because it's just jumping from car insurance to home insurance is really tough. Um, and equally, I think it helps. So it gets the recommendation here if you are an embedded space rather than call the just calling your customers blank because they are a customer and you have a phone number. And
Mm,
even if you have the opt-in, it's very likely the last resort and only have you really high ticket
yeah,
insurance. But really, I would also not put that in the recommendation. But I think what if you can, let's say, make it almost like an inbound thing to say, if you have
agree.
questions about this insurance product,
Yeah,
call us, and then
yeah.
it's a different thing, right? Because then someone calls and understood. Um,
Yeah, make a call to action, right? And be available
yeah,
if the customer calls in, right? So however you can contact them. And there's some cool ways of doing it, right? I mean, we all know when you travel, you download your boarding pass into Wallet or
yeah,
for an Android you do it. And you can also use these things to give the certificate to an
yep,
end consumer like that, and then you can push messages to the
yep,
customers that direction, so it actually pops up on your mobile phone, right? I think, and then you have a call to action and say, look, we have this fantastic offer. Are you interested? Call us here,
yep,
because I
yep.
still
Yes.
think on some of the instances that the personal interaction is still very powerful, and I think even more in the ages of AI, if you have a real life customer service, which or sales department, which is empathetic, which understands the consumers, I think that going forward will be the big distinction of your products and your services because everything or a lot of the rest can be copied. If you have a
Mhm.
fantastic customer service, that's, I think, what makes the difference.
And it's certainly something that you know, even if it doesn't, that's really what like great brands like to hear. And if you're in a B2B pitch and you need to get towards their customers, whether it's actually true or not, to say, listen, we provide great customer service because you decide how you want to treat your customers. It's your customers. So
Yeah,
even if you might be a little bit harsher yourself, if the numbers were pointing in that direction, it's someone else's customer. And I
yeah.
agree. Um, Gentlemen, just conscious of time, told you that we would easily, talk through, and we haven't managed to cover all of the things we wanted to cover. So maybe kind of two more things. Alex, is there any topic we didn't touch but should?
Mm, Again, I think for us at the moment, and I know we also want to check a bit what's the biggest chances, what's the biggest risks. I always like to talk about chances or opportunities, right? I think that's also what we sometimes miss a bit in Germany. We're always very negative, so let's focus on the positives, right? I think that the market is changing more and more. I think a lot of the big players understand you need to heavily integrate or embed to have offerings which are not your core business. And the other one is really that topic bringing sustainable products together with the product teams, with the sales teams, and create business cases that actually also make money for the company, so that sustainability is not only a cost center. That's where we really see our strength and where we see huge opportunities. Again, I think especially. When you look into the banking space or financial services space, there's also more and more opportunities you can tackle, right? Why shouldn't a bank, with their big network of branches, not do a trade-in for a smartphone, right? A banking product on a smartphone is essential now. Everyone pays with the phone, or I don't know, you pay with your watch. So why don't you link that more and more together, right? I think there's one or two examples in the German banking space already from a Berlin-based bank that or neobank, that are quite innovative with these things. They just launched their own network, right? Their own SIM card. I mean, why don't you do more of that? And that's where we see really our strength and where we want to support, where we have a lot of knowledge also from the US and the UK, and where we want to bring some of these products and services also now to Germany. Yeah, and I think there's some cool stuff to come in the next month. So yeah, stay
With
tuned.
with all the opportunities about especially embedded, at least one challenge, what could basically be the biggest
Yeah.
risk to glory?
I think with all that uncertainty in the world that's going on with the tariffs, with everyone being challenged at its core business, is that the big companies will shy away from the investments needed, I would say, from an IT perspective, to actually make these things work, to also be open-minded and add new products. We already saw that sustainability is a bit pushed back at the moment. And you can debate if that's right or wrong, but yeah, that there is certainly challenges in core businesses. Or you look at car manufacturers, right? I mean, the German car manufacturers are under heavy, or they have heavy challenges in front of them. So obviously they need to focus on the core. And that's a bit the only challenge that I foresee is that if the big players and the big brands focus too much on themselves and the core and shy a bit away from innovation, and that's the challenge that I see.
To wrap things up, you kind of mentioned it before that events is you're re-entering the market. Events is where you meet, right? This is a I think it's a good, but it's this is just a what's the word, like a suffragette. It's not the same thing what we're doing here than kind of meeting
Yeah.
face to face. So as I always felt that ITC or
Mhm.
previously also DIA was a great way to kind of connect. What's your view? Are you will you be going to Amsterdam 21st, 22nd of May this year? Will you be seen there?
Unfortunately not. So I wanted to go, and our insurance company for Europe actually also sits in Amsterdam. So I really wanted to go. Unfortunately, we made a commitment already last year to be sponsor of a circular economy event in Berlin. It's the exact same days. If it would have been only one day overlap, then I would have been in Amsterdam. So this time, unfortunately, I can't. But I think, again, as you said, ITC is a perfect place for connections, for innovation. You take yourself the time to really focus, on getting, um, yeah, on taking yourself out of being busy, I would say. You stay informed, you see some mega trends in insurance, but you also see insurtech and innovation. And I think that's like super important. So yeah, it's a shame I can't be there. But I will look in the calendar when it's next year, and then I will be there.
I mean, I can double down on that. I think what what's not to be underestimated is that you actually take the time. You take 2 days off your calendar. You don't have meetings blocked. And then, depending on whether you want to be inspired or whether you go actively reaching out through these apps, and everyone else does the kind of same thing. And
Yeah.
I find it is sometimes even it's not just about meeting new people. It's just actually having the time in such a busy schedule to meeting people you already know and to kind of catch up and make that that future eureka moment happen because you can pattern recognize everything a priori. So I think that's always what I when I kind of go out of it's like, yeah, this was not what I intended. I mean, I had a full plate,
Mhm.
but this was like I got something else out of it, and I can just recommend that to everyone. Ron, how about you?
Cannot agree more. For me, and I'm selfish here. I have a new role, and for me, it's my favorite format in terms of personal value because it just
Mm,
strikes the right balance. It's not completely overloaded with the content sessions, although this time we talked a lot about partners and control and the partnership. So I will definitely attend the partnership session on the second day. It can only be fantastic with Mark
mm.
Connolly, probably the Founders Forum, but also I will talk a lot about embedded insurance, especially in the CE markets and possibly some other topics. So really hope to see a number. And we didn't mention this. You see a lot of people in a short time you haven't met
Yeah,
for ages,
Yeah.
and that
yeah.
saves you a lot of time. So I'm looking forward to see a number of familiar faces, but also a number of new faces. Will be good.
Aw- Awesome.
Fantastic.
Um, Alex, Ron, thank you so much for your time. This was really interesting. Time flew by as usual, as I expected it would. Alex, all the, you know, no, not best of luck, just, success. This
Thank you.
seems like you have some really good tailwinds in your back, and hope to see you on the circuit in person anytime soon.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Bye.